This topic is how can I control my drinking? As always, welcome your questions and comments. Feel free to just message me on any of the streams. If you haven't been there yet, please take a moment, head over on Facebook to Sober Now's Facebook page. We'd love to have you just give that a quick like. You'll get notifications about future live streams and other content we're creating. So hope that you're having a good day. Let's get right into it. Controlled drinking. I admire people that can do this. I am not amongst them. I think for a lot of us, by the time we're asking that question, I'm hoping that we treat it as a red flag. It's oftentimes an indicator that we should be concerned. My experience is that by the time a person is questioning, do I have a problem with alcohol? Chances are that's not the first time you're asking that question. Chances are that if you have to keep asking that question, there's something important to look at there. But the choice to not consume alcohol is a hard one. Alcohol is steeped in our traditions, our holidays, our pastimes, and in most aspects of socializing. And I think the idea of not drinking feels like a lifelong decision. It feels like giving up something that's really good or important. It's like when I was a kid. I grew up in a Christian family, and every Lent season I had to spend 40 days giving up something that I really liked under the idea that it was going to make me feel closer to God. I don't miss those days. I am a bit of a hedonist. I want to be able to do just about everything that feels good, tastes good, everything I enjoy. And that's exactly why I don't drink. The first question that I ask people who are asking about controlling their drinking is, how are you at doing moderation in other parts of your life? I'm terrible at it, which has everything to do with why I don't drink. And I'm also blessed to have a body that wants nothing to do with it. I think it's really interesting. Caffeine and alcohol are the only two drugs that you'd ever have to explain to somebody why you don't do them. No one ever would ask you, why don't you do cocaine? Why don't you boot heroin? So it's the questions that people have about my choice not to drink are always amusing to me. And my go-to answer is I don't do anything else in moderation, so that's why I choose not to. I've heard a lot of explanations that I like. When folks want to keep things private, they'll say things like, because of the medication I'm on, I can't drink. I have a health condition, those types of things. And then I really admire friends of mine in recovery who say things like, I can't drink, I'm allergic, I break out in handcuffs. But let me refocus here, because I know that some folks can drink in moderation. They do so safely. I marvel at that. I think it's incredible that they can do that. Some folks have healthy self-discipline, and that's the nature of the second question that I ask folks is, what do you use, what do you do to promote your self-control? And some of us have healthy self-discipline, but I think most of us, whether we have an issue with substances or not, tend to be very self-critical by nature, and we're prone to fighting with ourselves. We're prone to battling with ourselves. So whether it's with alcohol or with food when we're trying to lose weight, or with anything else that we know is uncomfortable or unhealthy, unhealthy for us, then I think we really need to take a long look at what is it that we're using to achieve greater self-control. And my suggestion to folks is that being critical of yourself, usually we justify it by saying, I'm just hard on myself, I just have high standards for myself. And my experience is that when a person says those things, they're probably not just being hard on themselves, they're probably being mean to themselves and potentially being self-abusive. So I encourage folks to listen to their self-talk. I encourage them to journal, to bring ideas out into the open, and to get a sense of, is this something that needs to change? How can it change? What is the nature of our relationship with alcohol? The acid test that I offer to folks is, can you reliably predict what will happen in your evening, in your day, after you take the first drink. A change in personality is a red flag. Not starting out the evening saying that you're only going to have 2, and the next thing you know you've had 14. Pretty good indicator that you can't make that prediction, or you can't safely assure yourself or others about what's going to happen once you start. So again, I'm going to check my bias, because lots of folks, millions and millions of folks, can drink responsibly. And when I'm talking to folks that want to control their drinking better, one of the things that I'll ask them to really consider is, what is it that's good about alcohol? What do you like about it? And the answers that I commonly get are, well, it helps me to relax, it helps me release stress, it takes away inhibition and insecurity. Sometimes folks tell me that it's liquid courage, it helps them to socialize. And so the challenge that I'll offer to them is, well, okay, what if you could do all those things sober? Would that lower your use of alcohol? And logically it would, because the need that drives the use would be diminished. Sometimes what we're really doing with alcohol is self-medicating. And this is worth exploring. What changes when you drink? I think about when my kids were growing up, a lot of the families that we knew, our kids grew up together, mainstream, neurotypical people. And to be honest, they weren't a lot of fun until they'd had a few drinks. And then all of a sudden, boy, they were funny, they could dance, they had great conversations. And so what's happening there, obviously, is that their inhibitions and their insecurities are reduced, and they're tabled for a little while, and we have this socially acceptable reason to do the things that we wanted to do in the first place. The example that I most commonly offer is that I'm pretty sure there's nothing in a margarita that makes a person want to sing karaoke. They already wanted to, but they were too inhibited. And that's worth exploring. Inhibitions are fears, and insecurities are reasons that we believe we're not enough. And so alcohol gives us a socially sanctioned reason to be silly, spontaneous, expressive, and to do the things that we really wanted to do in the first place. So if we have a willingness to explore those inhibitions, then we can overcome them. We can bring our insecurities out into the open and consider whether or not those things are valid, whether or not they're true, and how is it that we could resolve them or move past them. So if we're looking to lower our use of alcohol, we need to have a baseline. We need to be honest with ourselves about how much are we using. So a standard dose of alcohol, for example, is a 12-ounce beer, 5 ounces of wine, or 1.5 ounces of hard liquor. And what is darkly amusing to me is that when I talk to folks who tell me they've only had a couple of glasses of wine each evening, I'll say, well, okay, but how big is the glass? And they'll maybe describe a 12 or 16 ounce tumbler or something along those lines. And I'll say, okay, so that's not a couple of glasses of wine, that's actually several glasses of wine. I'm going to explore with you a few ideas that were, actually I received this cool article from a friend. The Harvard Medical School developed a series of steps that people can take if they want to curb their drinking or control their drinking. And I, again, would love to hear what your experience with this has been. Would love to hear your questions, whether they're on topic or not. Always want to talk about recovery. I know that folks oftentimes will go on the bandwagon for a period of time, especially when they feel a decline in their health, when alcohol's caused some kind of problem in their life, when they feel like they've just been drinking too much. It's interesting to me because sometimes we use alcohol in different ways. Sometimes we're just being social, sometimes we're using it to relax or unwind, sometimes we deliberately set out to get drunk, and other times we're self-medicating, which is really problematic because folks oftentimes forget that alcohol is a depressant. It brings us down. We associate it with having fun because it's lowered inhibition and lowered insecurity. But what it actually does to our mood over time is the opposite of the good time that we're looking for. So here's some steps according to the Harvard Medical School, ways to curb your drinking. And I love this. The first suggestion is put it in writing. Make a list of the reasons to curtail your drinking. What are your goals here? Are you looking to feel healthier? Are you looking to get better sleep? Are you looking to improve relationships? Are you focused on your career? Focused on what's best for your children? All of these, of course, are worthy pursuits, but if these ideas only exist in our minds, they really have limited application and therefore limited value. The second suggestion is to set a drinking goal. Set a limit on how much you will drink, how often you will drink, and there are some health guidelines here that are interesting to consider. So for folks under the age of 65, the standard, according to medical professionals, is that we should have no more than 2 standard drinks per day. If we are over the age of 65, and actually even if we're younger, we need to be paying close attention to any medical conditions that we have and any medications that we use. There's some dangerous drug interactions, most notably between benzodiazepines and alcohol, that oftentimes folks are not aware of. So benzodiazepines are medications prescribed for chronic or severe anxiety. Ativan, Klonopin, Valium, Xanax, those types of medications are potentially lethal when combined with alcohol, even in small amounts. Next suggestion, keep a diary of your drinking. Let's take a month out of your life and keep track. Just write it down. How often did you drink? How much did you drink? And include information about how were you feeling before you started drinking? Whose company were you in? Where were you? Literally, where were you? Were you in a bar? Were you in a friend's house? Were you at home? Those types of things. The next suggestion, don't keep alcohol in your house. Not having alcohol in your home does a lot to help us limit our drinking. Next suggestion, drink slowly. Sip the drink. Drink soda, water, or juice after having an alcoholic beverage. Never drink on an empty stomach. So there's a few concerns here to address. The first is that alcohol is a diuretic. It takes water out of the body. And so if you're consuming a lot of alcohol or even a lot of caffeine, you should increase your water intake accordingly. One of the reasons that people have hangovers is because their body becomes dehydrated because of the use of alcohol. The other idea behind drinking slowly is that ideally you would be savoring. This is one of the recommendations that I have for people who struggle with food addictions. When someone's looking to lose weight or eat healthier, they typically expect that I'm going to tell them to eat less, which is not at all helpful. Everybody knows that eating healthy and exercising are keys to good health and weight loss. So for folks who are using food to cope or using alcohol to cope, and they tell me how much they enjoy the experience, they tell me how hard it's going to be to give it up, I'll say to them, would you be willing to simply do this slower and to savor it? And to savor is to simply enjoy it to the fullest. Let's see. Next suggestion. Choose alcohol-free days. Decide not to drink on specific days of the week. You might want to do an extended period of abstention, maybe a week, maybe a month. This has actually become, going on the bandwagon is something that it's been with us for hundreds of years, that idea. Sometimes folks decide that they need to prove something to themselves, that they don't have a problem, or they need to temporarily do something that's going to improve their health or improve their focus on achieving specific goals. So they choose to be abstinent for a period of time. The next suggestion is watch for peer pressure. Practice ways to say no politely. You don't have to drink simply because others are, and you shouldn't feel obligated to. You shouldn't feel obligated to drink at all, much less to accept every drink that you're offered, and stay away from people who encourage you to drink. The experience that I've had with an awful lot of people in recovery is, in retrospect, when they look back, they didn't really have those kind of close friendships and intimate conversations they thought they were having. They were just progressively consuming alcohol and becoming drunk with people that they seem to connect with. But after achieving abstinence or being in recovery, we find that those interactions weren't nearly as fun as we thought they were at the time. Next suggestion, keep busy. Go for a walk, play sports, go out to eat, catch a movie. When you're at home, pick a new hobby or revisit an old one. Go back to something you used to love doing. Painting, any type of writing, journaling is awesome for anything that you want to change in your life. Hobbies that you once enjoyed, some of it could be anything. But if there's something new that you'd like to learn about or something that you'd like to try, one of the safeguards that I recommend to folks against burnout is to have hobbies and things that they look forward to that have nothing whatsoever to do with their jobs. The next suggestion, of course, is to ask for support. And this emphasizes the need for accountability. Any type of change that I'm looking to make in my life, if I don't tell people about it, there's a really good chance that I'm not going to follow through on that commitment to self. There's a really good chance that I will disappoint myself. And while, if you're like me, you're very sensitive to the possibility of disappointing others, but you might have a bad habit of saying, well, it's just me, or as long as I'm the only one that gets hurt, it's okay. And those are subtle ways of justifying why it's okay to disappoint ourselves, let ourselves down, or even cause harm to ourselves. The next suggestion is guard against temptation. Steer clear of people, places, and things that make you want to drink. If you associate drinking with certain events, such as holidays or vacations, develop a plan for managing them in advance. Have a greater awareness of your emotions. When you're worried, lonely, angry, sad, you might be tempted to reach for a drink and try something different, try something new, a different coping mechanism for stress. Recognize that if you're drinking to cope with an emotion, then what you're really doing is training yourself to use a drug to alter your state of consciousness and to help yourself feel better. And that's how people like me get on the road to dependence. And the final suggestion is be persistent. Most people who successfully cut down or stop drinking altogether do so after several attempts. You'll probably have some setbacks, but don't let them keep you from reaching your long-term goals. There really is no final endpoint, and the process requires ongoing efforts. Every time that you do something healthy, it matters. I think we have a nasty habit of judging ourselves in very black and white terms. So if I didn't fulfill the goal completely, it's easy for me to label that a failure. Instead, I can consider, has there been improvement? Can I move incrementally in the right direction? And if you don't have dependence on the substance, then maybe you can. Maybe that's something that would work for you. Just got to do a quick check of the stream. Thank you for folks who have written in. Katie, thank you as always for being with me. Thank you for showing all approaches to lowering alcohol use. I use the method to not drink is pick up the phone, call a sober friend over picking up a drink. And it took her several tries, and she's grateful to have 4 years of sobriety and recovery, and that is awesome. Very happy for you. I think being able to reach out is probably the most important aspect of coping there is, because we tend to withdraw when we're struggling, when we're sad, angry, lonely, tired, when we are unsure, living with unknowns or uncertainties, when we're afraid. Anything that's really vulnerable in nature, we tend to pull back and We do so in the belief that we should not be vulnerable, we should not allow others to see us struggle, and connection to others is vital, regardless of whether or not alcohol is a problem for you, regardless of anything. Having intimate friendships, partnerships, having a really effective support system is something that we all know is important, but many of us just struggle to put that into practice. So if you're looking to cut down on your drinking, my suggestion to you is, what are you going to do instead? It's kind of like if someone decides that they're going to quit smoking, chances are they're going to start doing more of something else. So it's actually very common that when people quit smoking, they experience weight gain. And this was not a conscious decision. Chances are no one sat themselves down and said, okay, I'm going to eat more because I'm not smoking. We don't really ever just get rid of a behavior. We replace it with something else. And what's up for grabs is, do we do that consciously or subconsciously? So choosing what it is that you're going to do instead of alcohol, choosing to, whether it's getting back to hobbies, getting together with old friends, learning a new skill, making a greater investment in your parenting or in your career or whatever it is. Bring that out into the open. Don't let it just be an idea. Write it down, explore it, make a plan for it. If something is really just an idea in your head, there's very little chance that it's going to come to fulfillment. And I would say, more than anything else, let's look at what are the investments that you're going to make in your life. What are the things that you need that aren't currently present in your life, and what's the plan to attain them? What are the things that are making your life unmanageable, and how can we reduce them or eliminate them? What's the support that you have? How much spontaneity is there in your life? How much fun is there in your life? I'm a huge proponent of fun. What I find is that an awful lot of us just take ourselves way too damn seriously. So I hope that you're very deliberately seeking ways to have fun, to lighten up, to de-stress, to cope. And that's potentially more important than ever. As we continue to go through the pandemic, as we continue to deal with stress and uncertainty in the world, coping becomes all the more important. I hope that your self-care is an investment that you're making, and I hope that you'll view that as an investment in self. I think when we're stressed, when we're doing a lot, we look at self-care as a luxury that we don't have time for. And I used to view it that way, but my experience is that when I take time to do things I love and spend time with people I love, then I'm better at everything I do. I'm more efficient at the work that I do. I'm more organized. I feel better. My attitude's better. Everything just works. So I think we have to move away from looking at quantity of time and move towards knowing that investing in your health holistically and investing in the things that truly matter in life, experiences and relationships, makes everything else more manageable, more sustainable. Couple of more comments that I want to get to real quick. Let me just check the feeds again. If you're watching the stream long after the fact, would love to hear from you. All right, let's see. I'm gonna wind down, but I want to share a few resources with you. As always, I would love for you to check out Sober Now's channel on YouTube. Over 160 videos there and live streams on various aspects of addiction recovery, but also recovery from trauma and mental health conditions. Would love to have you check out our website, sobernow.com. We work on a subscription service now, so we're more affordable than ever. Under $15 a month gets you access to our home study programs. We have two of them. We have a 28-day program. It's actually, I shouldn't say it, it's go at your own pace. If you want to take less time or more, that's fine, but there's 28 daily lessons that are broken down to enrich recovery from substance use disorder. And then there's a second program for affected others, for people like me who have loved ones in active addiction. So check out those resources, and by all means, connect with me. Would love to hear how things are going for you. If you have questions around recovery, happy to offer what I can. Jim@sobernow.com is the easiest way to connect with me. Would love to hear topics that you'd like to see covered in future live streams. And more than anything, I hope you're taking excellent care of yourself. I hope you're reaching out to loved ones. Times continue to be stressful, and there's so many uncertainties that we're living with. And so making the investment, whether it's reducing your use of drugs and alcohol, whether it's moving towards abstinence, or whether it's just investing in better self-care, better stress management, better ways to cope with feelings of depression or anxiety, please make those investments, and please connect with me if I can be helpful in any way. All right. I'll look forward to seeing you next week. Please be good to you.